The transport ship came out of the jump with a shiver, metal groaning as if it feared the place it had entered. Black space stretched in every direction, cold and empty, but ahead of the ship floated a planet wrapped in shadows. No human had ever returned from it. No ship, no probe, no signal. The records called it Exile 3. The soldiers called it the Dead World. Yet one man stood at the viewport, staring down at it with calm eyes. His name was Captain Elias Ward. He had seen wars, rebellions, and deep space horrors, but nothing in his career carried the same weight as this mission. He was not sent to fight, not sent to conquer. He was sent because someone, or something, had whispered from the darkness. A single message had reached the outer colonies. Not a warning. Not a threat. A plea. Help us. Those 2 words, faint and broken, had shaken humanity more than any battle. Because they came from the very planet that had swallowed every expedition whole. The crew whispered behind his back. They said no one should step on that soil. They said the planet was cursed. Machines failed. Voices were lost. Time itself bent. Still, Elias had volunteered. Not for glory, not for medals. But because he believed no cry for help should be ignored. Not even from the jaws of death. The ship descended, flames of entry licking its sides as the planet's thin atmosphere resisted. The world below was endless stone and ash, cut by valleys of black glass that shimmered in strange light. No birds, no rivers, no signs of wind. It looked dead. But Elias felt eyes on him, as if the planet itself watched. When the ship landed, the silence was crushing. No insects, no air movement, nothing. The ramp hissed open. The crew hesitated, but Elias stepped forward. His boots touched the soil. For a moment nothing happened, and a sigh of relief escaped his men. Then the ground trembled. It was not an earthquake. It was not natural. The soil pulsed like a heartbeat beneath his feet. His crew shouted. Instruments went wild, screens filled with static, and one soldier screamed as his comm cracked with whispers in a dozen voices. None were human. Elias raised his hand, steadying them. His voice cut through the panic. We came for those who called. Hold the line. The men obeyed, but their eyes were wide with fear. They marched forward into a canyon that split the surface like a scar. Black glass walls rose around them, reflecting their shapes in twisted forms, as if mocking them. The deeper they went, the colder the air became, though their suits said the temperature had not changed. Breath misted inside helmets. Shadows grew longer, even though the sun above did not move. Then they saw it. A figure stood at the end of the canyon. Thin. Fragile. Not alien. Human. The soldiers froze. How could a human be here? No colony was ever built. No survivor was ever found. Yet she stood, pale and trembling, her eyes wide with terror as if she had been running for years. She opened her mouth. At first only a rasp came out, but then the same words that had traveled across the stars escaped her lips. Help us! Elias stepped forward, lowering his weapon, his heart pounding. Who are you? Before she could answer, the canyon walls shuddered. The reflections in the glass broke free. The twisted shadows of the soldiers stepped out, not mirrors but living things, wearing their faces yet wrong, eyes too dark, smiles too sharp, movements too smooth. The crew panicked, weapons raised, but Elias barked, "Hold fire!" His instincts screamed that these creatures wanted them to shoot, to break formation, to lose control. The woman fell to her knees, pointing at the shadows, her voice breaking. If you fight them, you lose. If you follow me, maybe you live. Elias made his choice. He reached down, pulling her to her feet. Lead us. And so began the march, deeper into the scar of the world, with their own shadows hunting them. Every step forward made the crew feel less human. Their suits grew heavy, their memories fogged, and their own reflections whispered in voices that sounded like their loved ones back home. The planet was not just a place. It was alive. It tested them, broke them, reshaped them. But Elias Ward kept walking, hand on the trembling survivor's arm, eyes burning with the same unshakable will that had carried him through war. Somewhere ahead lay the truth. Somewhere ahead lay the reason the stars themselves seemed to tremble at this planet's name. And he swore that if humanity had been called to help, then help would come, even if the cost was his own soul. The canyon seemed endless. Black glass walls rose on both sides, and the deeper they went, the more the world around them felt wrong. The ground no longer felt like stone but soft, like it was breathing beneath their boots. The crew whispered, afraid to speak too loud. Each sound echoed back, twisted, as if the canyon itself repeated their words but with a darker meaning. The woman walked ahead of them. She moved slowly, weak, but her steps never faltered, as if she knew this path well. Elias kept close to her, his rifle lowered but ready. His men looked at him with wide eyes. They wanted answers. But there were none. Finally, Elias spoke. His voice was steady, even though inside his chest his heart beat like a drum. "Who are you?" She glanced at him, her eyes hollow. "A prisoner. A warning. A mistake that lived." The crew exchanged nervous looks. One whispered, "She's insane." But Elias silenced him with a glance. The woman's voice was barely more than a whisper, yet each word cut the silence. "This world, it eats. It feeds. Not on flesh. On will. On hope. On memory. It takes until nothing human is left. That is why no one returns. That is why the shadows wear your faces." As if to prove her words, one soldier stumbled and cried out. His reflection, walking along the glass wall, suddenly grinned and stepped out into the canyon. Same armor. Same weapon. Same face. But its eyes were empty black pits. It raised its gun, moving faster than the soldier it copied. The squad shouted, weapons raised. Elias reacted first, firing a single burst. The shadow shattered like glass, shards of dark light scattering before fading into smoke. The canyon went silent again. But now every soldier watched their reflections with terror. The woman shook her head. "They will not stop. Each step you take, more of them come. You cannot fight them all. You must reach the heart before they reach you." "The heart?" Elias asked. She nodded. "The heart of the planet. The place where it was made. The place where it waits." The men exchanged glances. One muttered, "This is madness. We shouldn't be here." Another gripped his weapon tighter. Fear was spreading. Elias raised his voice, hard and commanding. "Listen to me. We came because someone called for help. That call was not a lie. She is proof. Whatever is here wants to stop us. That means we're on the right path. We hold the line. We move forward. No turning back." For a moment, silence. Then the soldiers nodded, one by one. Their fear remained, but so did their trust in him. They marched deeper. The canyon opened into a vast plain. The ground was covered in black sand, and far in the distance, strange towers rose, crooked and sharp, like claws scratching at the sky. Lightning flickered above them, but no storm followed. As they crossed the plain, whispers grew louder. The air vibrated with voices, male, female, young, old, all speaking at once. Some were familiar. One soldier froze, eyes wide. "That's my mother's voice." Another whispered, "I hear my child." The voices begged, cried, laughed, accused. The soldiers began to break. One ripped off his helmet, screaming, "She's calling me. She's alive." He ran into the darkness before anyone could stop him. Seconds later, his scream tore through the air. Then silence. Elias forced his men to keep moving, though his own hands trembled. He knew this planet wanted them to shatter, one by one, until only silence remained. The woman stumbled, and Elias caught her. She looked at him with something close to pity. "You are strong. Stronger than most. But strength alone is not enough. The planet learns. It adapts. Soon it will know your deepest wound. Before Elias could answer, the ground shook again. Towers in the distance bent, twisting, and from the sand rose shapes larger than anything they had seen yet. Not soldiers. Not reflections. Something else. They were giants of ash and stone, faceless but human-shaped, with arms long enough to scrape the ground. Each step they took left the earth cracked and smoking. The soldiers readied weapons, fear choking them. "What are those?" one shouted. The woman's voice broke. "It's guardians. Born from the bones of those it consumed. If you fall here, you will join them." The giants roared, the sound vibrating through the plain like thunder. The men braced for battle. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon, but he knew bullets would not be enough. He had one thought: survive long enough to find the heart. The sky split with lightning, and the plain became a battlefield. And humanity's fate hung on every step Elias Ward dared to take. The plain shook as the giants of ash and stone marched forward. Each step made the ground tremble like thunder. The soldiers aimed their weapons, fingers tight on triggers, but their eyes betrayed the truth. Fear was taking them. Elias Ward stood firm. His voice cut through the chaos. "Hold your ground. Fire on my mark." The first giant raised its arm, long and heavy as a falling tree. Sand and glass flew as it slammed the earth. A shockwave knocked 2 soldiers off their feet. Alarms screamed in their helmets. "Mark!" Elias shouted. Gunfire tore through the silence, white flashes lighting up the plain. Bullets ripped into the giant, shattering chunks of ash and stone. But the monster did not fall. It staggered, then kept coming. Another soldier fired a rocket. The explosion rocked the plain, smoke and flame swallowing the creature. For a moment, hope sparked. But when the smoke cleared, the giant still stood. Its broken pieces pulled back together, black dust sealing its wounds. The woman's voice trembled. "You cannot kill what the planet remakes. You must run." "Run where?" one soldier shouted, panic in his tone. "They're everywhere." The giants closed in, their shadows swallowing the plain. Elias scanned the horizon, searching for any chance, any opening. Then he saw it, between 2 crooked towers, a gap in the stone. A passage leading deeper into the planet. He pointed. "There. Move." The squad broke into a run, weapons firing to hold the giants back. Each shot slowed the monsters for a breath, but nothing stopped them for long. The woman stumbled, weak and breathless. Elias caught her, dragging her along, refusing to let her fall. "Faster!" he ordered, though his lungs burned. The ground split behind them as a giant's fist smashed down, missing by seconds. Shards of glass and ash rained over their backs. Another soldier was too slow. The creature's hand closed around him, lifting him like a doll. His scream tore the air. Then silence, as his body turned to dust in its grip. The squad pushed harder, terror giving them strength. At last they reached the passage. Dark stone walls closed around them, narrow and jagged. The giants roared, but their massive bodies could not follow. Their hands clawed at the entrance, shaking the stone, but they could not enter. Breathing hard, the soldiers collapsed against the walls. Sweat dripped inside helmets. Their numbers had fallen again. One soldier slammed his fist against the wall. "We're walking into hell for nothing. This place is a grave. We should have never come." The woman's eyes flashed. Her voice was sharp despite her weakness. "If you turn back, you are already dead. The planet does not let go. It only feeds." Elias looked at his men, their faces pale, their spirits crumbling. He spoke low, steady, every word carrying iron. "Listen to me. Every soldier we lose, every step we take, proves this place is afraid of us. If it wanted us dead, we would be dust already. But it fears what we can do. That means we still have a chance. And I will not stop until I know why this world called for help." His men straightened, shame and fire returning to their eyes. They followed him deeper into the passage. The tunnel twisted, a labyrinth of stone. Strange symbols glowed faintly on the walls, carved deep, as if made by something not human. Their light pulsed like veins carrying blood. The air grew thick, hard to breathe, as if the planet itself pressed down on them. Then the whispers returned. This time, they were not only voices of loved ones. They were the soldiers' own voices. I am afraid. I am weak. I cannot win. The men froze, hearing their private fears spoken aloud. One soldier tore off his helmet, clutching his head. It knows me. It knows everything. He dropped to his knees, screaming. Elias grabbed him, shaking hard. Look at me. You are stronger than this. It only wins if you believe its lies. But the soldier's eyes rolled back, his mouth spilling words that were not his own. Dark smoke leaked from his lips. His body stiffened, then shattered into ash. The squad recoiled in horror. The woman whispered, "The deeper you go, the more it will take. It tests each of you, one by one, until nothing is left." Elias clenched his jaw, his mind burning with fury. Then it will test me. And I will break it before it breaks us. As they pushed on, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern. At its center rose a tower of black crystal, tall as a mountain, glowing faintly with a heartbeat of red light. The woman collapsed, whispering through trembling lips. The heart. You've reached the heart. The soldiers stared, fear and awe in their eyes. The crystal pulsed, and with each beat, the cavern shook. Elias felt it, deep in his bones. The planet was alive. And it knew he was here. The cavern was silent except for the steady pulse of the crystal tower. Each beat echoed through the stone, like the heartbeat of some sleeping giant. Red light washed over the squad, casting their faces in blood-colored glow. No one spoke. No one dared to move. The woman's voice broke the silence, soft and fearful. You stand before the heart. But it is not stone. It is memory. It is hunger. It is every soul this world has taken. One soldier whispered, "It feels like it's watching me." Elias Ward stepped forward, his boots crunching against the black ground. He stared up at the crystal, towering above him like a god. His chest felt heavy, as if invisible chains wrapped around his ribs. But he did not stop. Then the cavern shifted. Shadows peeled from the walls and drifted across the ground. The soldiers raised their weapons, but Elias lifted his hand. Wait. The shadows twisted, stretched, and took form. Not giants this time. Not soldiers. People. The squad froze. Some dropped their weapons. Because they knew those faces. Parents. Lovers. Children. Friends. One soldier cried out, "My brother! That's my brother!" He ran forward, reaching for the shadow. The figure smiled, arms open wide. But when the soldier touched it, the shadow sank into his chest like smoke. He screamed, his body shaking, then went limp, collapsing to the ground. His skin turned gray. His eyes black. When he rose again, he was no longer human. The squad opened fire, blasting the creature apart, but the damage was done. Another man lost. The whispers filled the cavern. Voices rose from the crystal, thousands of them, all speaking at once. Elias heard them crawl into his ears, into his mind. Elias Ward, you are too late. You cannot fight what you cannot kill. You carry the same wound we do. He staggered, gripping his head. The cavern blurred, his men's voices fading. The planet was pulling him under, deeper than the others. And then he saw her. A little girl stood before him. Brown hair. Bright eyes. A smile he had not seen in years. His daughter. Elias froze. His throat locked. The cavern vanished, and he was back on a ruined colony, smoke rising in the sky. He remembered the attack, the screams, the fire. He remembered searching the rubble, calling her name. He remembered finding nothing but silence. Now she stood alive before him. She reached out her hand. Daddy, you came back. His heart broke open. Every wall, every shield he had built in war, crumbled. His men shouted, but their voices were far away. The woman's hand touched his arm, pulling him back. It is not her. It is the heart. It knows your pain. If you take her hand, you will never leave this place. Tears burned Elias's eyes. His daughter's voice trembled. Don't listen to her. Don't leave me again. Please. Elias shook. His weapon dropped to the ground. His whole body screamed to hold her, to save her, to finally undo the one loss he could never heal. The woman gripped him harder. Captain, humanity needs you. Not your shadow. If you fall, all of them fall. The cavern trembled, red light growing brighter. The figure of his daughter stepped closer, her eyes filling with dark smoke. Stay with me, Daddy, forever. Elias roared, a sound torn from the bottom of his soul. He stepped back, fists clenched, tears streaking his face. You are not her. The figure stopped. The smile twisted. The shadow hissed, black smoke exploding outward. The image shattered. Elias fell to his knees, gasping. The woman knelt beside him, whispering, You are stronger than it expected. That is why it fears you. Around them, the other soldiers struggled with their own visions. Some screamed. Some wept. 2 more fell, consumed by the heart. The squad was breaking. Elias forced himself up, fury burning through his grief. He lifted his weapon and faced the crystal tower. Enough. If you want to feed, then feed on me. But I will not bow. Humanity does not bow. The red glow dimmed for a moment, as if the planet itself recoiled. The voices inside the crystal roared, furious, shaken. The woman's eyes widened. It listens to you. It has never listened before. The soldiers, trembling but alive, gathered behind him. Hope sparked where only fear had been. Elias raised his voice, strong and unyielding. You called for help. You begged for it. Now I am here. I will not leave until I know why. Show me the truth, or I will tear this heart apart stone by stone. The cavern shook violently. Cracks split the walls. Dust rained down. The crystal pulsed faster, louder, like a drum of war. And then, slowly, a doorway formed in its surface. Black light poured out, cold and endless. The woman whispered, trembling, It is opening. No one has ever reached this far. Beyond this door lies what created it, what made the planet alive. Elias stared into the darkness. His men looked to him, waiting for his command. He gripped his rifle, his face like iron. We go in. Humanity came when you cried for help. And we will finish what we started. And with that, Elias Ward stepped into the heart of the planet. The doorway of black light swallowed them whole. For a moment, the squad felt weightless, as if falling through endless night. Then their boots struck solid ground again. But the world they entered was not stone, not glass, not anything human eyes had seen before. They stood inside a vast chamber, glowing with rivers of light that flowed through the air like liquid stars. The walls were not walls at all, but shifting patterns, alive, breathing, whispering. It was as if they had stepped into the mind of the planet itself. The soldiers moved close together, weapons raised. Fear clung to them, but so did awe. One whispered, This isn't a place. It's alive. The woman walked forward, her eyes wide with terror and wonder. No one has ever seen this. You stand inside the core, where it was born, where it still remembers. Elias's voice was steady. Then this is where we get our answers. The whispers grew louder, filling the chamber. Not just voices now, but screams, cries, songs, and laughter all tangled together. Millions of souls speaking as one. The soldiers clutched their helmets, trying to block the noise, but there was no blocking it. Then a shape rose from the rivers of light. It was not solid. Not flesh. A figure made of shifting energy, glowing eyes staring down at them. Its voice filled the chamber, every word vibrating in their bones. You should not have come. The soldiers froze. Elias stepped forward. You called for us. A message reached humanity. 2 words. Help us. Why? The figure tilted its head, light rippling across its body. We did not call. We cannot call. We are what remains. The cry you heard was from those trapped within. The ones who still remember themselves. The woman gasped, tears filling her eyes. Then there are survivors inside you. That's why you keep feeding. That's why no one leaves. The figure's voice rumbled. We are not evil. We are not cursed. We are prison. We were made long before your kind walked the stars. We were created to hold something. Something that should never escape. The soldiers shifted uneasily, fear crawling deeper. Elias narrowed his eyes. And what is it you hold? The chamber darkened. The rivers of light flickered. The figure's voice dropped to a whisper that shook the squad to their core. The first hunger. The thing that devours hope. The thing that turned us into this. We hold it so that it does not spread. Elias's men exchanged terrified looks. One muttered, Captain, we shouldn't be here. We should leave before it breaks free. But Elias's voice was hard. No. If this thing is dangerous, if it's calling for help, then humanity cannot turn away. We finish what we started. The figure's eyes glowed brighter. Humanity, strong, reckless, stubborn. You are different from the others. They tried to fight us. You listen. That is why we have not consumed you yet. But every moment you remain here, the hunger learns you. Soon, it will use your strength as its own. The ground shook. The chamber pulsed, rivers of light flaring red. Something deep below growled, a sound too vast to belong to any living thing. The soldiers fell to their knees, hands over their ears. The woman clutched Elias's arm, her voice breaking. It's waking. The hunger is waking. You must choose. Leave now and live, or stay, and risk all humanity. Elias looked at her, then at his men, then at the glowing figure. His voice was iron. If we leave, it will keep feeding. It will keep crying for help. And one day, it will break loose. No. Humanity doesn't turn away. We face the fire. The figure stared at him in silence. Then it whispered, almost with sorrow. Then face what even gods could not kill. The chamber cracked open. The rivers of light shattered. From the abyss below, something began to rise. It was not a shape. Not at first. It was darkness itself, pulling light into it, devouring every glow. Eyes opened in the void, too many, too deep. A mouth split across the darkness, wide enough to swallow worlds. The soldiers screamed, firing wildly, bullets vanishing into nothing. The woman fell to her knees, weeping. The hunger, the true heart of this planet. Elias raised his weapon, his voice cutting through the terror. Then we fight. Not because we can win. Not because we are safe. But because someone called for help. And humanity answers. The void roared, shaking the core to its bones. And the final battle began. The chamber shook as the hunger rose from the abyss. Darkness swallowed the rivers of light. The crystal walls cracked. The soldiers staggered, blinded by shadows, their weapons useless against the void. The hunger's voice was not sound but a pressure inside their skulls, heavy and endless. I am what your kind cannot fight. I am the end of all fire. I am the silence that follows every cry. The men screamed, clutching their helmets, blood dripping from their noses. Their minds bent under the weight of its voice. Elias Ward stood firm. His body trembled, but his eyes burned. He raised his weapon and fired into the void. Bullets vanished like sparks in a storm, but he kept firing. Each shot was defiance. Each burst was humanity refusing to bow. The hunger laughed. not with joy, but with hunger itself. You feed me with your struggle. You are nothing but another echo. The woman cried out, her voice breaking. You cannot fight it with steel. You must resist it with will. That is what it fears. That is why it whispers, why it tempts. It cannot take what you refuse to give. But even as she spoke, one soldier broke. He dropped his weapon, stumbling forward, tears streaming down his face. I can't fight. I can't. I just want peace. He walked straight into the void. His scream was brief. Then silence. The squad faltered. Hope cracked. Elias roared, his voice shaking the cavern. Stand your ground. You are soldiers of humanity. We don't bow to shadows. We don't break. His words struck his men like fire. They rallied, lifting their weapons again, forming a line beside him. Their bullets could not wound the void, but their unity burned brighter than the darkness. The hunger pressed harder. Illusions swirled in the air. Families, lovers, lost children, all reaching out, all begging to be held. The soldiers shook, tempted, but Elias stood before them like a wall. He shouted above the storm. It will use your heart against you. Don't give it what it wants. Remember who you are. Remember why you came. Humanity answers the call. The woman staggered to the crystal wall, pressing her hands against its surface. There is a way. The prison was built with a key. A will strong enough to chain the hunger again. But the price. Elias joined her, gripping her arm. Tell me. Her eyes filled with sorrow. The one who offers their will is bound forever. Their soul becomes part of the prison. That is how it has been kept for ages. The soldiers heard. Fear froze them. One whispered, "It means death." Elias shook his head. No. Worse than death. It means never returning. The hunger grew larger, swallowing more of the chamber, its eyes burning like endless pits. It roared, shaking stone loose from the ceiling. The woman fell to her knees. It is too late. It is too strong now. Elias looked at his men. He saw their faces, tired, afraid, scarred. He knew many would not survive another moment. He knew humanity might never get another chance. He made his choice. Elias lifted his weapon, voice steady as iron. You will hold the line. You will fight, no matter the cost. Because if humanity falls here, the stars will burn alone. But I will finish this. His men shouted after him, but he walked forward, straight toward the hunger. Every step was a struggle, as if the void itself tried to crush his bones. Shadows clawed at him, whispering his daughter's voice again, begging him to stop. He did not stop. He reached the center of the chamber, where the black crystal pulsed with the hunger's heart. He pressed his hand against it. Pain tore through him, fire and ice burning every vein. The hunger screamed, the sound shattering stone. The woman cried out. He's binding it. He's giving himself to the prison. The soldiers fired wildly, trying to distract the void as it writhed, but their captain was already beyond saving. His body glowed, light pouring from his chest into the crystal. His scream was not of fear but of rage, of defiance, of a man refusing to let humanity fall. The hunger roared. Shadows shattered. The void shrank, pulled back into the crystal as chains of light wrapped around it. The chamber collapsed, but the prison held. When the dust cleared, Elias Ward was gone. Only the black crystal stood, pulsing faintly, now glowing with a new light. Not red, not black, but white, steady, unyielding. The woman whispered, tears streaming. He bound it. He gave himself to chain the hunger again. The prison holds. Because of him. The surviving soldiers stood in silence, their weapons lowered, their hearts heavy. Humanity had lost its captain. But humanity had gained something greater. Because the hunger was chained by a human will. And in that silent cavern, the stars themselves seemed to tremble. The cavern was silent. The black crystal pulsed softly, glowing with a steady white light. The hunger had been chained again, but the cost was clear. Captain Elias Ward was gone. The surviving soldiers stood in the ruins, their weapons lowered, their eyes fixed on the crystal. None spoke. None could. They had followed their captain into the jaws of death, and he had given himself so they could live. The woman knelt before the crystal, her hands trembling. He is inside now. His will holds the chains. For as long as his fire burns, the hunger cannot escape. One soldier whispered, voice breaking, "So, he's not dead?" Her eyes filled with sorrow. Not dead. Not alive. He has become part of the prison. A guardian. A flame trapped in endless night. The squad exchanged broken looks. They had seen men fall in battle, but this was worse. There would be no body to bury, no grave to honor. Only the crystal. Still, one by one they knelt. Their helmets lowered, their heads bowed. No orders. No ceremony. Only silence, raw and heavy. At last, the woman rose. She turned to them, her voice weak but steady. He gave everything for you. For all of humanity. If you carry this truth back to your people, then his sacrifice will never fade. The soldiers helped her to her feet. Together they left the core, following the shattered tunnels back to the surface. The planet groaned beneath them, but it no longer fought them. The shadows were gone. The whispers were silent. The guardians had turned to dust. When they reached the plain, dawn broke across the sky. The world, once covered in ash and silence, glowed faintly with a new light. As if the planet itself mourned the man who had saved it. The survivors boarded their ship. Engines roared, lifting them into the sky. For the first time, Exile 3 released its prey. As the ship broke atmosphere, one soldier whispered into the comms. "Goodbye, Captain. We'll tell them. We swear it." The journey back to human space was heavy with silence. But when they arrived, the silence shattered. Humanity listened. The message spread across colonies, fleets, and stations. The name of Elias Ward was spoken everywhere, in markets, in homes, in war rooms. Children whispered it like legend. Soldiers spoke it like prayer. Leaders carved it into records that would never fade. Because for the first time, humanity had faced something older than the stars. Something that devoured hope itself. And they had not only survived, they had chained it. Not with machines. Not with weapons. But with the will of a single man. Across the fleet, soldiers repeated his words. Humanity does not bow. On distant colonies, parents told their children the story of the captain who heard a cry for help and answered, even when no one else dared. And in the dark, on a dead world, the crystal pulsed. White light beat like a heart. Inside, a voice still burned. Elias Ward, standing unbroken, holding the chains of the hunger. His mind battered, his body gone, but his will unyielding. The hunger whispered to him, endless and cruel. It promised release, begged for surrender. But Elias never answered. He stood guard in silence, his defiance burning brighter than the void. And the stars were safer because of it. Years passed. Humanity grew stronger. Fleets expanded. Colonies spread. But none forgot the story of Exile 3. None forgot the captain who never returned. Whenever a distress call echoed across the void, humanity answered it without hesitation. Not because it was easy. Not because it was safe. But because of one man's choice, one man's sacrifice. And somewhere, far away, on a silent planet that no one dared approach, the white crystal still glowed. A warning. A promise. A beacon. The galaxy whispered his name. Captain Elias Ward. The man who stepped onto the planet no one returned from. And changed humanity's fate forever.